Hello, everybody. We'll get started in just a little bit. Wait for some folks to make their way in. Hello, hello. All right. Let me go ahead, just make sure that folks are able to get into the meeting. Looking pretty good. I had the meetup page had changed a little bit, so it looked a little bit different than it was. So yeah, that was kind of like, ooh, need to refind everything. Okay, I think I've got everything set up. Perfect. Okay, great. So, hello. Hi, everybody. For those of you that are new or have never met me before, I am Sarah. I am the director here at the Atlanta School of Photography. I'm so excited that you're here. I absolutely love being able to do these meetings and have a little bit of time, just an hour to get to hang out and go over different stuff that I'm just curious about and taking feedback from y'all and saying like, what do we want to do more of? What do we want to learn more of? And one that kept coming up was product photography and lighting for product photography. So I've got my light here. I have a bunch of like random stuff I have put together from our office area to go over some different lighting for and photography for product photography. I've got my camera hooked up so you'll be able to see everything through my camera lens as I'm doing it, which is really great. And yeah, so of course, as always, if you have questions, please put them here into the chat box. And I will try to keep my eye on them as much as I can over like the next hour or so. And as always, I will also link the equipment and send links to the equipment that I'm using, the different things that I have in terms of like lighting and backdrops and like place setters and all of that. So I will send that out afterwards and the link to the recording of this meeting. So if there's anything that you want to go back to, you can rewatch this on our YouTube channel. So, and if there's anything else that you want to go back to, we also have a ton of stuff on our YouTube channel. So I'll link that as well and send that out as like a big follow-up for everyone. So yeah, cool. Sounds good. All right. I'm gonna stay hydrated. I just got back the other day from a 20-day international trip. Went to Italy and Croatia. It was absolutely amazing. It was fantastic. Went to Italy with a group of amazing female photographers, and then went to Croatia to go visit family I had never met before, which is crazy. Cousins over there. So yeah, so I'm trying to get back on US time, back on Georgia time. So if I'm a little bit out of it and my brain just like goes randomly, that's why. That's why. So yeah. All right. So let's go ahead and get started with the first couple of things that I have in mind for what we are doing. First things first, I have my light here. We have two of these. This is just one that I've used in previous meetings before. I absolutely love it. It's a constant light, so it's not a flash. We do have classes on flash, and all of that. But I love a good constant light, especially for product photography, because I can see things as they're happening in real time, and how the lighting might change or be a little bit different depending on how I'm moving the light, how I'm photographing, how I'm moving the products around. So we have this, it's GVM, great video maker. I know, very professional sounding. And then we just have a newer softbox on this guy. I think this is a 28-inch, if I'm remembering correctly, or 22. Either way, just a good old softbox. Has a couple of different layers onto it. I went a little bit more in depth about the softbox and the different diffusion layers that it provides on a previous meeting. So if you're interested, like I said, check out the YouTube channel, and it has that information in there of going more in depth into softbox and diffusion and different types of light, especially for portrait lighting. But now we're kind of shifting gears. We're taking pictures of products for today. So like I said, I have two of these. I have one with a softbox. I have one without a softbox. It's just the regular old light. I love a 2-light setup. It allows things to be a little bit more dynamic. So I'll show you the difference of what it looks like between a single light setup and a 2-light setup. Also, I have a brand new modifier. I'm very excited about this. It's a spotlight. So I'm gonna find a way to put this and use this in some capacity. I'm really, really excited about this one in particular. So, okay, let me go ahead. I'm going to move some things around so we can get a better look-see here at what I have displayed. So, first things first, when it comes to doing product photography in general, I highly recommend doing a couple of different things. First one being coming up with a mood board. So some type of inspiration that you can put together, because what's really important with product photography is a concept. So we can do kind of like a regular old product photography on a white background, and that's pretty straightforward and simple. But what I want to go more of today is conceptualizing. So how it is that you're presenting certain objects to be able to be photographed, and what that says to the viewer. So, because half of this is advertising, right? And advertising, a lot of it is just psychology, in a sense. I know in a lot of arts degree programs, you have to take a semester in psychology to be able to do an advertising degree, which is wild. So, but makes sense. So, going to be going over a couple of different ways that might play in, and how it is that you're essentially kind of giving more information and context to the viewer, and being able to more specifically pinpoint your audience. So, okay, so I have a couple of different backdrops. These ones are made by Replica Surfaces. They've been around for a while. I've had these for like maybe, geez, almost a decade now. They're pretty fantastic. They look very realistic. They are easily wipeable, so you can kind of mess them up a good bit and wipe them off pretty easy. These ones, they come, I just got like the marble ones. But I also have a couple of different ones. We can use this wooden backdrop as a backdrop that I have on this desk. And then I have regular old plexiglass. So doing more of like a reflections type of vibe. And I'll show the difference of what that looks like. I have my green backdrop up today because I want to do sort of like more of a, we've got some of our new products and I want to do sort of like a 70s style shoot. And this was giving very 70s to me. I love this color. It's gorgeous. So I'm going to do a couple of things first. I'm going to get my light set up. So as you can see, I have my softbox, and I'm going to bring this up, maybe not as high as I would a portrait shoot, because we're not all the way like up here at this level. It's a little bit lower. So I have the ability to kind of keep it maybe right about here is what I'll usually do. And then I'm going to turn this on. I'm gonna turn this on. You guys, quick tip, plugging things in. It helps a lot. Let's see. There we go. So we've got this one there. That's what we're looking for. Absolutely. And then it always has a handle on the side too. So I'm just going to loosen this and allow it to tilt down at a slightly more severe angle. And I'm going to bring this close close, close, close. Again, everything's on a much smaller scale now. So everything's going to be a little bit closer to where we are would be rather than like a portrait shoot. Everything feels a little bit more claustrophobic sometimes, but also hopefully a little bit more cozy too. So awesome. So first things first, I'm going to do a what's called like a lay flat. A lay flat shoot for product photography is essentially shooting straight down. Whereas I don't know the exact word for it, but I just know the lay flat is just more down than across. And so for flat things like our tote bags or our shirts. So I'm going to position these in a way that I think would be somewhat appealing without looking too chaotic. That's kind of the big one, is you don't want it to be so chaotic that if someone looks at the photograph and goes like, oh, what is happening? I don't like that. So instead, it's like, we're going to do this in a way where hopefully it is still clean. So I'm gonna move this guy for now because I like the wood. That's also giving a little bit more of like a 70s vibe to it. And I'm gonna put this here. And then I'm going to add some extra things. I'm going to do a whole photo shoot just on this in a little bit, but for now I might just add it in as like kind of an extra sort of thing. See how that works out and that looks. And then what I'm going to do, again, talking about like if we're adding context and we're adding something that we'd want to sell it to be kind of giving off that vibe that we're going for, we want to add props. So I'm going to have my bag, but place like film, Kodachrome, maybe a camera, kind of make it look as if it's like this stuff was in the bag or spilling out of the bag itself. Yeah. And here's the thing. I'm recognizing this as I'm going about it. I already goofed because here's the big thing that I did. I put the bag this way and not facing towards the light. So I'm going to shift everything at a 90-degree angle, and then that's going to feel more like how it should actually be. I'm also going to add in a fern, because again, we love a good plant. And you know what? Because I'm doing a lay flat, I'm actually going to I'm not going to have that in the photograph. We're going to have this sort of around, and there we go. Okay. Because I wouldn't want to be photographing directly down into an empty cup. We don't need that. So I'm going to save this for later when we've got the background. And I'm going to switch over here so y'all can actually see my screen and the camera that I'm using. Fantastic. There we go. Okay. So got my Sony camera. Sorry, it's a little shaky there. I'm going to change up some of my settings. So then I can have a better photo. I'm going to go for a 2.8. Usually with product photography, if I'm going for a super blurry background, I'm going to have a 2.8 aperture on there. Shutter speed at 1/200th of a second. That's just for safety. I don't want blurry pictures because of shutter speed. That's not what I'm looking for. Instead, I want to make sure that everything is crystal clear. So my hands might shake a little bit because the camera's kind of heavy. So that's the reason for the 1/200th of a second. And then I should be able to bring down my ISO, hopefully. Yeah, absolutely. To be able to have a more clear photo. That's much better. I'm going to scoot everything back a little bit just to give myself a little bit more room here. There we go. And let's see. So here's the first instinct that everybody goes for, is to photograph the stuff out of the bag. I'm not selling that. I'm selling the bag. I'm selling the bag. And it's like, I see product photographers do this all the time. It's like, oh, look at all this cool stuff. It's like, no, you're selling your bag. That's the important bit. So make sure that that's taking up the majority of your photo. Everything else is an accessory. Everything else is kind of extra. So if I'm doing this, yeah, there we go. Yeah, it's like put a preset on that. Oh, no, I don't need that. Put a preset on there that has kind of like a film sort of look to it when it comes to the editing. But overall, I think that looks pretty good. It's, again, it's like we've got the bag, that's taking up the majority of the shot. I would probably, if I had a little bit more time with y'all, I would extend this green background out and underneath. So then this, we're not seeing like a gray, gross carpet kind of thing. Not gross carpet, but it's just a gray carpet. Sorry, carpet. But I could also do that in Photoshop if I felt like I wanted to, but I usually don't. I want to just have less time in editing and more in actually photographing. And the other thing is I forgot to turn off my overhead lights. Again, it's like we want to be able to have it where we're just using the singular light itself. We're not having to worry about overhead light or anything like that. So let me see if that changes anything. So I go back to take another shot. Oh yeah. Go. So yeah, it's obviously a little bit darker. So this would be something where it's like I could go back to my remote here. The ISO can come up a little bit more. And try that again, where it's like, I want to make sure I'm getting a shot, but I'm not losing detail. Of course, it might come with a little bit more editing, but that's better. So just changing that exposure a little bit with that ISO. But it is looking, now we're getting these really intense shadows over here, right? We don't necessarily want that. So here's where my favorite thing is that second light. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that one on to see if I can get a little bit of a difference in filling in those shadows. I'm going to be very careful as I maneuver my way. There we go. I'm going to angle this down. Boom. So let's see if that made a little bit of a difference here. Oh yeah. Actually, probably bring my ISO down a little bit too. There we go. Yeah. There we go. So now we're filling in that shadow more than we were here. Like this is pretty, it's a little bit more of that intense shadow that we're getting versus here, not nearly as much. It's helping to kind of like fill that in a bit more. This is of course more of that like diffused lighting that we're getting. One of my favorite things to try with doing types of product photography is to have it where it's looking more like sunlight, maybe a little bit more like daylight. And in that case, what I want to do is I want to have like a bare bulb. So what that means is like I'm not diffusing the light. Instead, I am just, oh, where did my thing go? There we go. I want to make sure the chat's there in case y'all have questions as I'm going about. But yeah, it's like I want to be able to have the same thing as this light over here is just a singular bare bulb. So I'm going to switch this up and you should be able to see the difference once I get these moved a little bit. So let's see what happens if we turn this one off. And then let me go ahead and do this so you can actually see what I'm doing. There we go. Oh, hello. Oh, wow. Yeah, much darker. But I'm going to bring this light up a little bit more. I'm also going to get this up off the floor so I don't trip on it. Gosh. It's really unraveled itself. There we go. There we go. Put a clamp on it. Make sure that doesn't go anywhere. Okay. So I've got this light. I'm using this one because again, it's got that bare bulb on it. Put this here. Make that nice and bright. And take that shot. And I'll be able to see the difference in just a second of what it looks like versus one to the next. Oh yeah. Big, big, big difference. So Obviously, a little bit more intense. We're getting more intense shadows in there and it's a little bit darker. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna raise it up higher to emulate as if it's daylight. Because right now it's kind of messing with our brains a little bit and thinking like, this can't possibly be daylight because it's so bright, but it's at such an angle where this brightness and this, like even this color balance of light is usually up very high. So let me switch this so you can see. Again, kind of pull this up ridiculously high, tilt this down, and we'll try that. Shadow should be a lot less long, a lot less intense. Oh, and it's me trying to stay out of the way of the shadow now too. Yeah, there we go. So a little bit different. Where here, it's got a little bit of like the longer shadows, and then there, not so much. Cool. So just kind of a lot of this is the process, is just changing the light, experimenting with it, moving things around until you find something that you like. It's a lot of what product photography is just moving stuff until you're like, oh, okay, that looks good. So let me move on to the next object. And also so you all can see here. Great. Okay, so I'm going to move this light back to where I usually have it, which is almost directly opposite to the other light. And this time, we're going to try that cup, because here's the thing with cups and doing things with anything with a reflection to it, is we don't want the reflection to show up too much. We want the nice little highlights there, but we don't necessarily like want to see ourselves in it. So we're going to go over like how to avoid that. So put this guy here. I'm going to move this back just a little bit to give myself more room. Then for my props, ideally what would happen is if I had an actual like cup of coffee that I could pour into it, that would be amazing, but too messy for this at the moment. Yeah. So going to add that as like a little bit of a background cup there. I have one more plant that kind of gives that vibe. So if I end up changing the angle, I can also have it there. Maybe a book. Put that on. Yeah. Looks pretty good. Okay. So again, I've got both of my lights on now. I'm going to turn one of them off just so we can, again, show you the difference of what it looks like with and without certain lights on and off. All right, so there we go. Okay, I want to make sure you can see what I see. And this is with a really shallow depth of field. Like you can see here, I've got like a 2.8 depth of field. And the reflections actually are working in my favor at the moment. Versus if I were to maybe try to photograph it up here, it's not too bad. But in any case where you are trying to avoid seeing yourself in the photo, don't move the product, move yourself. That's it every single time, like clockwork. I see people trying to like futz with the lights and themselves. It's really a matter of just moving yourself. The other thing that you can also get is a type of filter for your camera lens that switches it so it'll cut out reflections. I'll link it. It's like a type of filter that depending on where you're at with it, you can sort of move and adjust. So it will, help to cut out those reflections a little bit more. And of course, if y'all have comments, please put them in the little chat box there. Feel free to ask away. But I'm liking how this one looks. I think my white balance is a little bit off because you can obviously see here, the green isn't matching. So right now I'm on auto white balance, but it's probably reading that green and trying to remove that green. So instead, what you should be able to do, okay, that's sunny, and that's pretty, still looks a little muddy. That's way too orange, way too cloudy, way too blue. This might be something that, yeah, we might have to go and, oh, sorry, I didn't think it would move. So, okay, so I might have to just adjust my white balance manually. You can see here as I start to roll my white balance, it goes really yellow and then more towards the blue, which makes it look more muddy. Finding something that hopefully gets us pretty close. It's a little tricky. And this might be something where I go, okay, maybe the color is not entirely accurate in my photo. That's better. That's a little bit better for sure. And then that way I can help to adjust that and be closer when it comes to editing. Because especially with products, also what we want to do is be able to have it like the correct representation of what the color is of the product, right? We don't want to have it be like, oh, this is, I'm sure everyone's had this at some point where you've probably ordered something online and then you get it at home and you're like, this is not the color at all of what it was. This is completely different than the type of color I was expecting from this product. So we want to be as accurate as possible with the color, and going from like here where looking at the mug, it's like, not really. We're here. Yeah, it's got a little bit more of that like teal tinge to it. And a lot of the times in editing, I will bring these pictures in and I will even have the product right next to me. So I'm seeing it in real life as to like what it looks like. So this is like a little bit further out, but if I tried to get a little bit closer, let's see, I might move the plants closer to each other to give more of that background. Yeah, there we go. But the other thing you can see here is the depth of field is also getting very shallow, almost to where it's falling off even before the product has ended. So I'm going to bring up my aperture a little bit more. And when I do that, it's obviously going to be darker. So I'm going to bring up my ISO to help to compensate for that change. There we go. So the difference being, you can see quite a bit from here with that depth of field where that blur is happening almost at the back. If you want to be able to encapsulate more of the product, just increase that aperture. And that's going to allow that depth of field to extend further back into your photos. For products, I will usually be around like this, unless it's like super artsy, I'll usually be around a 5.6 just to make sure that my depth of field is encapsulating the majority of what it is that I'm photographing. 2.8, this like super shallow depth of field is more for like a vibe. If I'm going for vibes, yeah. So we have a little bit of the difference of like the lay flat versus the straight ahead. Again, kind of putting things into context and putting things into the photograph to help with that versus if we were to just have, it's important too, if it's just the cup on its own, on its lonesome, still not so bad, but not nearly as maybe like pop and exciting, right? It's kind of just there. Versus when we start to add stuff in, it feels a lot more like I'm trying to essentially like put this towards a certain person to be like, if this is your vibe, if this 70s thing is your vibe, you're probably going to love this coffee mug. So I'm going to add little things in there to kind of hint towards that. Versus this might be one that I'd have just for the website to kind of just show the product as a whole. Versus like this one is I'm trying to get you to purchase. I want you to buy this. And this is why. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this other light on and set up put my little setup back together here. And again, what it looks like with the second light. Yeah. Ooh, but that's really bright. Let me kind of tone that down a smidge. here's what it looks like with that backlighting as well. I don't know why I always take 2 pictures just because for funsies. Yeah, okay. So difference being from here to there, we're getting just like a little bit more fill in, but now it's like maybe I'm able to see it more with my naked eye, but when it comes up in the picture, I'm not seeing it a whole lot. Maybe just over here on like the right-hand side of the photo, we're getting a little bit of nice kind of like glow off the edge of the product here, where here it's darker and maybe falling into the background more. So I could even move that light around. I could move the product or the other like accessories out of the way to have it show up more. But I think that's important to have it where it's like bouncing off just a little bit, just a smidge more. So I'm liking that one. Yeah, it's like, thanks for the coffee mug. It's a Christmas gift. Perfect. Amazing. I'll have to send it to my friend who gave it to me. So let's switch it up where I also want to show what it looks like if maybe it's not like if we did a similar product, but for like a different, if we did a different setup for the same product and how that looks, because I think sometimes it really helps to see what it looks like when we don't, when it goes wrong. I think that can be some of the most important things is like going through this learning process, especially, and saying like, okay, what if not? what if it went really, really wrong? So I'm going to back this up a little bit and I'm going to switch a couple of the things out, but show you what it looks like with like a different product. So keeping this, moving all of my little accessories out of the way. We're going to go very plain. I'm even going to roll this up so I don't have my cute green anymore. We're doing just plain white background. Now, love a white wall. Don't need a backdrop for that. And then I'm going to grab my plexiglass. This is black plexi. I adore it for, as you will soon see, certain types of photography. And I'm also like, this needs to be clean. So apologies, it's going to look a little gross. So again, mug, putting it just there for that purpose alone. Done. Let's see. There we go. Oh, let me switch this over so y'all can actually see what I'm seeing. That's important. Very different vibe. It's like if you're scrolling through Instagram or a website or whatever, this is probably not going to catch your eye nearly as much as this. This is a much, much different look overall. It's giving a very different vibe. It's giving more like clean, techie, sort of aesthetic versus like cozy, warm 70s house, natural plant sort of aesthetic. So this is I like to be able to really show the difference between those two, because when you put it out in front of you like this, you go like, oh, okay. This is like one of the first things that my professors did, where it's like, okay, take the same object in different scenarios. And this is where you start to learn the differences of aesthetics and why it matters, why it really, really matters. So with this one, obviously don't really need it here. But what if we take this guy and we do something a little bit different. So instead of a more kind of like natural coffee cozy mug, we have our RC Cola. A little bit more of like cool Coca-Cola. No, I see Cola. It's not Coca-Cola. We should have a Coca-Cola bottle though. We have enough of those in Atlanta that I can probably find one. So difference being, yeah, fits a little better. It's like just the overall vibe from here to here. And I'm sure the RC Cola one might fit in the 70s ones too, just because it is more of like a vintage bottle, but all the same, it's going to be very, very, very different for the most part. So the thing that happens here where I'm like, you know what, I'm not really loving too much is this white backdrop. I would really love for this to just be like one continuous black backdrop and feel kind of like it's in like a void a little bit. You might think, okay, let me switch this out for a black backdrop. We actually don't have to do that. One of my favorite things with this type of lighting and these types of lights is that we can control and mold the light to be more of what we want it to be, so we're not seeing the background. So let me go ahead. I'm going to switch this over so y'all can see what it actually is that I'm doing. Get that focus. There we go. Okay. So as you can see, it's like right now we've got this softbox, and the softbox is spilling the light all the way over here. How do we know that? Because I can stand and I'm creating a shadow from this direction. So I know this light is the culprit of that. So I'm going to turn this off. See how much of a difference that instantly made? It's like now we have this beautiful dark backdrop. What happens if I bring this light up? Now we've got this little bit backlit as well. So what does that look like? Okay, so that's with the softbox turned off, just the softbox turned off. So then what happens if I move this light around to the front? And closer too, if it will let me. There we go. I'm trying really hard to not let this light spill in the background. Because now what I can do, yeah, there we go. Okay, so now we get that kind of shot. I'm going to switch up my settings a little bit more to really eliminate that background. This is, yeah, bringing my aperture way down, or bringing my ISO way down. I think I brought it from like 3200 to like 500. Yeah. So that's cutting the light out of the photograph to get that effect. But what I really want to do is I want to be able to also include more of that really cool reflection that's happening as well. Yeah, so we can see as it kind of falls off there. This can be really cool again for more like, again, kind of like dramatic looks, obviously. And again, this would be more with like that very dark void. So it looks pretty cool, but at the same time, we're losing the product a bit. So what happens if we switch it up and we go for just a white void instead? So we'll switch this over. Get y'all so you can see what I'm doing. Focus, focus. There we go. Okay, so let me bring this ISO up so y'all can actually see what I'm doing. Okay, so this was with the black plexi. I'm gonna change it up. I'm gonna move this guy. I'm going to grab now, if white plexi's out there, it might exist, but I'm just using a foam core. This is just regular foam core board with clear plexi on top. Again, very dirty. I gotta clean it. I gotta get some Windex on this. And then put this right there. Boom. And now, what does this look like? Obviously, gonna be way too bright. Way, way, way too bright. I'm gonna scoot this down. And you can see it's not giving off as much of a reflection as the black plexi does. And now it's because we've had this extremely pointed light. We'll need to add in our guy here. And I'm even going to go as far as to point my light at the background. Again, if you want just like a plain white backdrop, just a light on it, can do a lot of good. Gonna bring up my ISO a little bit more. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. So that's that, like, again, very bright white void. We're even getting more reflection there. So the difference between black void, white void, just in the space. This is always probably going to be better and more successful with the softbox rather than the direct light, and just using that direct light instead to make your background completely white. I'm going to try to get a little bit more of the reflection in there like I did with the other photo before. See how that looks. Yeah, no, then that kind of like brings it out a little bit further, and I'm not liking that one as much. I just like the head on and just a little bit of the reflection there instead. Cool. All right, let me check in here. Okay, great. Again, any questions, please feel free to jump in. The other thing that I want to be able to add to this is the illusion of condensation. So let me grab my, there it is, spray bottle. Let me show you what this looks like. So this is a product photographer's best friend, is just something as simple as a spray bottle off Amazon. So I'm gonna go ahead and mist a little bit, mostly towards the top, because that's where eyes are gonna go. Now, that, just with spraying it, now it looks like more of a cold beverage. So you can add as much on there as you want, but should find that the most of the time it's gonna look very different. Again, from here to here, it's like just ever so slightly more successful. It's really in the details. It's just like the tiniest little things that make all the difference in the world. I'm gonna try to spray it a little bit more towards the base and spray from further away. See how that looks. Yeah, much better. Cool. So again, just those tiny details can make all the difference in the believability of a product shoot, the vibe of the product. I know you keep talking about vibe, but it is so important. It really is. Okay, let me see. Just debating like the next thing to take pictures of. Sorry, again, jet lag brain. So fun. Let me see. So I want to make sure with the time we have left, what it is that I can show y'all. So I think the next thing is going to be the spotlight that I got. So again, let me switch this. Oops, and just took a picture of the room. Love that. Okay. Cool. So big difference we're gonna get. I'll move these for now. Probably photograph the camera on its own. You know what? No, let's do the speaker. Feels a little bit more techy. I'm gonna use my black backdrop. Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna switch out this guy. So this is just like a regular bare bulb. Reflects a little bit to set it forward, but nothing too crazy. And then we have our spotlight snoot. This is what it looks like. It's directing the light all the way through this time. And we can use this in a myriad of ways. First one, ooh, does that have the, oh, it does. It still has a, there we go. It has little pieces in there that you can use to shape the light, which I always think is really cool. Let me actually get some of those. So if I were to photograph it as it is right now, here's what it would look like. Which still looks pretty cool. But we want to change this up a little bit. It's like the white's a little boring. So what I can also do is add a color filter to the front of our light. Make that background. Ooh, come on. This has a little trouble sticking. There we go. And I'm gonna change my color temperature and I bring this down so it's not as bright. That light, there we go. That red really shows up more. I'm even gonna bring this down a little bit too so it's not as like spilling onto the backdrop. We're getting more of this like kind of sunset look. Yeah, that's a huge difference. Immediate shift in the look of the photo. From here, much more clean. From here, a little bit different. And again, instead of me like moving the lights around too much, I'm just gonna move the product and move it towards the light instead. And then that's what we get. And I'm gonna bring up my ISO a little bit more too. Yeah. That is so cool. I absolutely adore this spotlight and what it can do for a backdrop. If I were to move this to the actual subject, just play around, see what that looks like. Ooh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, it's not so much of like an effect at that point. I could just put a red filter on. I guess that just makes my life a little bit easier. But again, I want to show you what it does look like if I use some of those, what the spotlight can do. There we go. Come on, focus. And the differences of being able to use some of these, not the color, but these little guys that have the light go through it. So I can shape the light and it's not just a circle. So I'll put this one in. Position. Be very, very, very specific. How I do that. There we go. Turn this off. Ooh, yeah, okay. This will be interesting. So yeah, so that obviously giving like a very, very different look to it, almost like light coming through a window in a sense. Super, super cool. And they come in like a billion different kinds of shapes with that too. And you can of course like add these on top of each other with the colors. Let me try pink. Blue one. Yes, there it is. Bring this up even more. You can change the white balance on these lights too, and that helps whenever using a color. So with the red, I have it switch more to like the yellow side, and then with the blue, obviously more towards like the blue white balance side. Yeah, and then that's giving a different vibe to it in itself. And I am curious, just because now we're in the playing around stages, what it looks like. I add just like a little bit of light from the softbox behind, all still coming from the same direction. Yeah, just, no, I think I like it better in just the void in darkness. Yeah. So a lot to be able to play with, a lot to be able to change and switch up. And different ways that you can create your photos in the same space with just a couple of different backdrops, essentially. Yeah, so let me see here. I want to I'll be able to switch this over so you can see me. Hi, there we go. Okay. So with the time we have left, I just wanted to open up in case there were any questions, if there's anything else that I can help with or point out, whether it's related to any of the stuff that we did just here, or kind of more random things. I always like to leave the end for questions when we have more of these sort of general meetings as well. So if you have any, feel free to put them in the chat or raise your hand and I can unmute you as well, if that's easier. So yeah, I'll just kind of hang out for a little bit. Get hydrated as well. See if there's anything else I might want to show, but I think kind of ran the gamut there on a wide range of different ways to shoot product photography, where it's like bright, super bright and airy, or a little bit more dramatic, spotlight, softbox, adding things to the backdrop, adding light to the backdrop, or just to the single subject. And of course, like you have any of this that you can get, and I'll send links to them. But the things that I started with were just clamp lights. I went to Home Depot, bought different colored light bulbs, had a different array of them, and just used those for my product photography and even some of my portrait photography. And that was like, I mean, this was like mid 2000s, so it was like $20. It's probably like $40 now, but still, it's a very affordable, easy way to play with lighting in the space, instead of feeling like, oh my gosh, do I have to jump to these big lights and soft boxes and all of this already. I recommend just breaking it down to basics, and starting with a regular old clamp light. And then we would put like baking paper, like wax paper, over the clamp lights to give it the effect of a diffuser. Yeah, we got really creative when we were broke college students. So it's like there's ways to do this. So yeah. Do you tend to use the plexiglass in visually isolating shots only? Yeah, actually, for the most part, that's a great question. Yes, so tend to use it with just a singular product. So usually with like things that are glass, shiny. Makeup is one that you will see constantly used, where you might have like an accessory here or there, but because there's a reflection part of it, adding extra accessories can make it feel too cluttered. So you'll usually see it very simple, often monochromatic even, which is why it's used very often for makeup, and without a lot of background. If it's something you might have, like, again, like with this, we're adding texture. So you might just want to add like a little bit of spray of water, or if it's makeup, a powder kind of pushed onto like behind or close by or something like that, but keeping it much more limited compared to the one that we did with the plants and adding those pieces in, where those reflections can just, with that and the reflections, can get to be too visually overstimulating. Yeah, no, great question. Absolutely. Any other questions? Very good. Okay, cool. Well, let me leave you with this. We do have our classes starting this week. So if you're in the Atlanta area, I have a lighting class that is starting on Thursdays here in this studio, 12:30 on Thursdays, starting this Thursday, and then for the next three Thursdays after that. So 4-week class. And if you use this code, my photo class, that will take $25 off. So you'll get the discount code. Cool. Feel free to message on the meetup board or send me an email or give us a call if you have any questions on anything. And yeah, thanks y'all for coming. I really appreciate you being here, and we'll see you at the next one. Bye.